So we're talking today both about shoes and about our clothes. How do you know when it's time to move on from what you have and how you can do that? All right, let's start off with shoes. So how do you know when your shoes are done?
The number one thing I say is, like, if they don't feel as springy, and you know it. When you're wearing a shoe and it's like, it's just like not responding and you just kind of feel heavy in them, that's a great sign of like, oh, how many miles do these have on them?
Yeah, and if you're like, how will I know if it doesn't feel springy? If you've worn your shoes for hundreds of miles or for many, many months, you had them at the start. And so you know what they felt like when you first put them on. It's going to feel different. Like you will just feel like you're not getting that feedback or responsiveness when you're running. So it is actually easier to tell.
The other rule is just straight up mileage. So if it has more than 500 miles on them, no shoes are really meant for that. 500 miles is the max for shoes. Some pack out as little as 150 if we're talking about like a racing shoe. 350 to 500 is that general range of, please don't go beyond that. You are not saving money. You are going to be spending big on manual therapy and PT and everything else to fix things that you might be causing.
Yeah, so you just said the word pack out. So packing out means that the foam doesn't bounce back. So this is another sign that the shoes are ready to go. If the foam isn't bouncing back or you can see little crinkles on the heel of the foam, it's a sign that it's not as responsive as it was because it's not coming back to its full capacity. So when you see those lines, folds, creases, wrinkles in the back of the sole, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're totally done, but they are on their way to not being as effective of shoes.
One caveat to that I will say is racing shoes. So if we're thinking about like a Vaporfly or an Alphafly or any other brand equivalent, we want to keep very, very close track of how many miles we have on those shoes because they do technically pack out and they're dead at like 100 to 150 miles, which is why they're racing shoes. But sometimes after wearing them just once, because the foam is so lightweight, you might see those lines. So 100% on those shoes, keep a very tight timeline and mileage of how much they've been worn because you might see those lines before they're actually dead.
Yeah, that's a great point. Another way that you might be able to tell that your shoes are done is if they have significant wear around the edges, if you scuff your heels and you can start to see that under part under the rubber. And then with the packing out, if chunks of the foam are starting to come off, that's a sign that that has deteriorated and is done for.
Here's a big PSA as well. When these shoes die, they are not to be used for strength shoes. Let me repeat that. When your shoes show all of these things that we're talking about, it is not the time to use them for walking or definitely for strength or anything else. We need you to get them out of your rotation because they are no longer supporting you in your movement. Full stop.
Yeah, and even the walking piece I think is important to emphasize because a lot of people would take their old running shoes and be like, oh, these are my kicking around the town, walking with my family shoes on the weekends. But you're still putting a lot of miles on those shoes when you are taking them into a more casual setting. And yeah, it's not supporting your body in the right way. Those shoes should go into like garden shoes. Those are like your, I'm gonna get these like muddy shoes, right?
Yeah, your very low mileage occasional trash them, 100%.
Right.
The last way that we might really recognize that a shoe is ready to go is any brand new pain that we have, specifically in that knee, ankle, hip, back, calf, Achilles, anything where all of a sudden, pop, you feel it, specifically on both sides too, I will say. So when you notice what I call a sudden onset bilateral sensation, take note of how many miles you have on your shoes because chances are they could just be dead. Think about it. The shoe is the thing that is absorbing the impact and helping propel you forward and keep you safe. If that starts to fail, your body is then taking on that impact.
Okay, so what do you do when you notice these things? A couple of things that you can and should do. The first is to integrate new shoes before your old ones die. So before you are at the point where you are going to start experiencing the pain or you start to see a little bit of a wrinkle on the foam, it's time to implement new shoes. And that can be the same brand of shoes, the same exact style, just another new pair. Or if you're moving to something else, that would be the time to do it so that you can integrate those and like ease into those new shoes.
Two notes on that. One, I love this whole like toggling between. I think people sometimes, especially if funds are tight, they're like, I don't want to spend the money. You're actually spending the same total amount of money, right? Because the mileage is going to be spread out over the two pairs. The other thing that it can really help with is making you realize that your old shoes really are dead, or maybe they're not. Because especially if it's the exact same shoe and it's just a brand new pair, if you feel significantly better and different, when you're wearing the new pair of the exact same model, your old ones are on their way out. Yeah. The other little hack I have here, I love eBay. I do. I like to sell things on eBay. I like to buy things on eBay, especially when it comes to finding shoes that might be model-wise on the way out. Look online for new pairs of the ones that you love. Don't think that you have to necessarily go and buy the new model from an actual store. You might be able to find it for cheaper, and you're supporting like another runner, getting rid of their stuff. It's pretty awesome, and they have great authentication programs and such to keep you safe from scams. I'm a big believer in it, especially if you are super, super into a model, again, that is going to be on the way out. If we're looking we're looking at, let's say, a week of running. If you run in a shoe and you run on foam, we're hitting the ground 2 to 3 times our body weight every single time we hit. So that foam is getting beat up regardless of how old it is. It takes 24 to 48 hours for that foam to completely bounce back. So if I'm running on Tuesday morning tempo, let's say on a trainer, and I want to use it again on Wednesday morning, it's probably not quite ready yet. So you want to be rotating those shoes so that you're getting the full benefit of your foam.
Yeah, and then in addition to that, we want to be logging our miles. So tracking miles on your shoes, then you know when it's time to get rid of them. And then recycling your old shoes when it is finally time to send them off to the dump. We want to recycle those shoes because sometimes they can have different life. So that's for our shoes. Now let's talk about our clothes. What do we do when our clothing, mostly starts to stink, right? That's
usually the failure. Yeah.
Yeah. For most of our running clothes, because we are not wearing it all day long, and because we're running, a couple of times or several times a week, you're actually going to get a lot of life out of good quality running gear.
Especially if you're rotating it, yeah. And you kind of have to rotate it.
So for us, usually the big sign that something is ready to leave is that it's not getting rid of the stink. And sometimes you can't notice that. You'll wash it, you'll smell it, it seems fine. As soon as your body warms up, whew. So there are a couple of things that you can try before we get to this point, right? Like there are specialized sportswear detergents that you could use, right? That are supposed to get stink out. I've had low, moderate success.
I feel like I did in the beginning, and now I'm having, I don't know if they changed or if I'm just not as good as washing them.
You could also try vodka for stink. So
Really?
Yeah. Vodka.
Didn't we do a whole episode on this?
Yeah. We did a whole episode on getting your stink out. We'll link that.
Get your funk out.
Get your funk out. That's right. The other reason that you might need to get rid of some of your clothing is from wear due to friction. So in places that rub, specifically I'm thinking about cycling gear as an example. We will get to a point where you can see your butt crack through those shorts because of the lycra.
Oh my gosh, stretching.
The stretching, right? So there is a lifespan to gear like that. That might mean, your tights. If you run in tights with nothing underneath, thighs rub. That's just human design. And so you should check your gear every once in a while to see how that wearing is happening. If you're starting to see pilling on the fabric, that's an indication that you're starting to get some friction there, and you should keep an eye on it. So what do you do when you realize that your gear is on its way out?
Nobody wants your stinky clothes.
Yeah.
Please don't donate them. If you can smell yourself in them, it is not the time to give them to someone else.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? What do we take to either a recycling program, because there are specialized programs out there where people can donate very lightly used gear for people who are coming into running, or for youth programs or things like that, right? Those programs exist. But I would say what I would donate to that is maybe if I had something that didn't fit.
Yeah, wrong size.
Right, so wrong size as the first one. Or say I got a little coffee stain on the edge, right? And performance-wise, the gear is fine, but it's something aesthetic that you were I'm gonna pass this on. If it stinks, do not pass it on to other people.
I always do feel weird throwing it away though. So to your point, there are textile recycling programs. I'm getting a lot of these in my Instagram and Facebook feed, which is interesting. But sometimes park districts will hold them, or even specialized locations where you can drop off. I'm getting a lot of ads of you buy a bag and then fill the bag and then they recycle it for you to be responsible.
Right. For textile programs, it is harder to find those recycling programs. It's similar to electronics recycling, and sometimes they're held on a special day at a special time. So you should search in your area just textile recycling and the town that you're in and find those locations that they have. But they do exist. They are out there.
And last but not least, for the future, just invest in high quality gear. I know before filming, Coach Chris and I were talking about, like, when we started, we were using maybe like Old Navy gear, or I was wearing the cotton t-shirts that Brian, didn't want anymore, which was just fine to start, right?
Yep.
But as you grow as an athlete, you will typically start to go higher and higher quality. And chances are those fabrics are going to last longer and longer.
Yep. So it is spring cleaning time, and it is a good time for you to take a look at both your shoes and your gear and make some decisions. Also, look out for some spring sales. As we're entering a new season of running, we should be able to find some really good deals out there. And for more information on what to do with your stinky clothes to maybe try to get a little extra life out of them, check out this video right here.